Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, Krishna fulfills all desire. We're going to read from chapter 3, Talks between Shiva and Sati. Daksha initiates further sacrifices and his daughter Sati, seeing the gods traveling there, desires to attend against Shiva's advice. The fire's flickering flames illuminated Vidur's weathered features. He sat silently in thought for a few moments and standing between Daksha and Shiva. But that does not explain why Sati killed herself. If there is more to this incident, please tell me. Verse 1, Maitreya said, the tension between Daksha and Shiva continued for many years. Neither apologized nor even spoke to the other. Vidur sat back in surprise. Daksha is highly cultured. Did he not feel remorse for his outburst? Verse 2, Maitreya said, after Brahma appointed him chief of all the Prajapatis, he became most arrogant. Vidur nodded. The same thing had happened to Dhritarashtra. One who is puffed up with the ephemeral prestige can perform any disastrous act. Verse 3, Maitreya continued, confident of Brahma's support, Daksha decided to perform 2 consecutive sacrifices known as the Vajpaya and Brahaspati Sava. Listen to what happened on that occasion. Verses 4 to 7. Sati sat on Mount Kailash stringing flowers into a garland for her husband. Shiva's ghostly followers stood nearby, ready to execute her every desire. Hearing laughter, she looked about. The airways between the heavens and the high planets were crowded with aircraft. Hosts of celestials, accompanied by their lavishly decorated wives, rode on their aerial chariots. Great sages and mystics moved through the space by their own yogic power. They appeared to be coming from all over the universe. Sati saw that the gods and their consorts were all dressed opulently, adorned with costly earrings and necklaces with gem-studded lockets. They spoke excitedly. I hear this is Daksha's most extravagant sacrifice ever. All the important personalities will be present. Sati's heart soared. Her father was hosting another sacrifice. All the ladies were accompanying their husbands to this one. What a wonderful chance to wear the new dress and jewels her father had given her as dowry. Given as her dowry, her mother and sisters would be there taking her garland. She ran to tell her husband they should go together. Then she remembered that Shiva and her father were not on speaking terms. He may not want to go. Still, he had never denied anything before. Surely, if he saw how much she wanted him to accompany her, he would put past misunderstandings aside for her sake. Verses 8 to 9. She found Shiva sitting in his hut instructing Nandi. When she entered, Nandi politely bowed and stepped outside. Sati garlanded her husband and touched his feet. Shiva smiled affectionately. Dakshayani, how beautiful you look today. What have you been doing? I made this garland for you, my beloved. Shiva smelled the garland. Ah, so beautiful. What can I give you, my dear Devi? Sati scratched the earth with her toes. My lord, your father-in-law is executing a great sacrifice. All the gods and celestials have been invited. If you so desire, we can go together. My sisters must have gone with their husbands to see their relatives. I wish to get dressed up and see and attend with you. Verse 10. Seeing Shiva's displeased look, Sati spoke earnestly. My affectionate family members will all be there. I long to see them. The ritual will be performed by great sages and the arena will be grandly decorated with so many beautiful flags flapping in the wind. Can you imagine? Oh, how I would like to see it all. Shiva averted his eyes and said nothing. Sati became insistent. For all these reasons, my dear husband, I am anxious to go. Verse 11. Shiva stood up and began to leave. Catching his arm, Sati said, I know you are not attracted to social events. You see this world for what it is, a phenomenal interaction of nature's 3 modes. But I am just a simple woman. I'm not fixed in the truth like you. It is only natural that I wish to visit my birthplace once more. Shiva looked compassionately at his young wife but made no reply. Verses 12 and 13. Sati caught hold of his hand. My lord, although you are fixed in transcendence and never experience material suffering, I know you are supremely sympathetic toward those who do. Your throat is blue due to drinking an ocean of poison to save the gods. Please show me that same kindness. Not only will my relatives be there, but so will all the other celestials' wives. Everyone will be wearing their finest outfits. She pointed upward. See how their flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky appear charming. O best of the gods, how can a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears of a festival at her father's house? At the mention of Sati's father, a shadow passed over Shiva's features as he remembered Daksha's animosity toward him. He had not told Sati how her father had publicly insulted him. He merely said they had a misunderstanding because he failed to rise when Daksha entered the assembly. Looking at Sati's earnest, upturned face, he smiled and spoke gently. Dear one, we have not been invited. Sati stamped her foot. That does not matter. That there is no harm in going to a friend's house or to one's father's, husband's, or spiritual master's home without an invitation. Verse 14. Pressing her husband's hand to her face, she pleaded, O immortal Shiva, be merciful and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half of your body. Please therefore accept my request. Verse 15. Shiva stroked his wife's face. If only she had heard Daksha's stinging words. He has eyes like monkey, but he married my daughter, whose eyes are like a doe. Verse 16. Shiva said, My dear beautiful wife, it is true that ordinarily there is no problem in going to a friend's house without an invitation. However, if due to false ego and pride, the so-called friend becomes angry when he sees you and openly criticizes you, even insulting your appearance, then it is best to avoid him. Sati gasped, My father is learned, cultured and austere. He descends from an illustrious heritage. He would never lose his temper and criticize anyone for something so superficial as their looks. Verses 17 to 19. Shiva sighed. High-class persons like Daksha do indeed have 6 exalted qualities: education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage. However, pride in such attribute blinds one to the glories of great personalities and make him lose his good sense. One should not go to such a person's house uninvited simply on the consideration that they are relative or friend. You will only be rudely snubbed. Dear Sati, an enemy's sharp arrows do not hurt as much as the unkind words of a relative. The grief thus inflicted burns the heart day and night. Sati's hand flew to her chest. Was Shiva insinuating that her father would insult her? How was that possible? As his youngest daughter, she had a special bond with him. Even if Shiva would not go, she would go alone. Verse 20. Shiva understood her mind. Beautiful lady, surely of Daksha's many daughters, you are his favorite. Nevertheless, be assured that because you are my wife, if you go to his house, you will be shunned and dishonored. You may even end up feeling ashamed of our connection. Sati's chest heaved. How did you make my father angry? Verse 21. Daksha has always hated me for the same reason the demons hate Krishna, because I am his spiritual superior. My father is not like the demons. Maybe he detected some envy in you which angered him. I envy none. Nor have I ever wronged your father. Lord Vishnu is my witness. If you doubt this, then go into a yogic trance and ask the Lord personally. I believe you, but should you not have at least stood when he entered? After all, he is your father-in-law. It surely behooved you to show him some respect. Verses 22 and 23. O beautiful one, it is true that normally friends and relatives greet each other by standing, speaking welcoming words, and offering obeisance. However, self-realized souls offer their respects to the supersoul residing within, and not to the conditioned soul who ignorantly identifies with the material body. At the time your father entered, I was seeing the Supreme Lord while in trance. How could you have been in a yogic trance in the midst of such a busy assembly? Shiva shrugged. I do not decide when the Lord will appear. That is his decision. You know that I am always absorbed in thinking how best to serve him. Vishnu manifests according to his own will in the minds of anyone who is in such pure consciousness. Sati turned away, her heart pounded. Shiva was speaking the truth. He was a pure-hearted, self-realized soul. Yet it was hard to believe her father would publicly insult anyone. He was a wonderful man. This was all an unfortunate misunderstanding. She needed to go and speak to him. When she explained everything to him, he would understand, and the rift between him and Shiva would be healed. She glanced back at her husband. He could tell from the defiant look in her eye that she had made up her mind to go alone. Verses 24 and 25, Shiva said, My dearest, your father should undoubtedly be respected by you even more than me. After all, he gave you this body. Still, my beloved, I ask you not to go. He hates me and he insulted me cruelly, even though I was innocent. If you ignore my instruction, I am worried some mishap will befall you. He may also insult you because you are my wife. If he does, I fear you will die. After all, to be insulted by a loved one is worse than death for a respectable person. So this brings us to the end of chapter 3. Talks between Shiva and Sati. And so many realizations in this chapter. And the main one for me is that Lord Shiva doesn't see the phenomenal interaction of nature's three modes. He see the world as it is. And I would thank you all for joining in this reading. Happy Narasimha Chaturdashi to everyone. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.